It's doing the live dance. Hello, everybody. We should be live everywhere now. And I actually decided to be a professional this time and wrote a formal intro. So everybody go, ooh, and enjoy. So, hi, y'all, and welcome to our little cozy corner of the internet. I am Edie Skye. He is Jacob Holo. This is the part where you say, hi, Jacob.
Hello.
Good job. Together, we write and co-write everything from space opera adventure to multiversal sci-fi detective mysteries to spicy harem fantasy. And this show is our way of hanging out with fans and chatting about what we're up to in writing, hobbies, and life in general. And man, since the last one, we've had a lot of stuff. This was supposed to happen like 2 months ago when this book came out. And we had a con, and then we both got sick and lost our voices, and then we had busyness, and then we both got sick again. And so now, 2 months late, we are here to talk about the release of Blood Knight Portal of Gold. So, woo! And actually, I forgot to turn the chat on, so let me do that so I can say proper hellos to everybody. And oh my gosh, now I'm grabbing the wrong mouse. What even is my brain today? Okay, so hello, chat. Welcome. And while everyone is coming in, we're going to cover one of the most important parts of the podcast, which is the grilled cheese of the month. And the grilled cheese of the month this time around is the donkey sauce grilled cheese. This one I totally made because I found like Flavortown brand donkey sauce at the grocery store, and I was like, what? And it's basically a garlic aioli by Guy Fieri. And I use that and then mozzarella and provolone cheese on, I believe, Hawaiian bread, and it is fantastic. I'm going to put a link in the comments in a second to it, but also our usual stuff. We are going to be giving away a free copy, signed copy of Blood Knight Portal of Gold. If you would like to try for that, there's a link in the show notes and also will be in the comments. And let's see here. I believe those are all my formal announcements. So
that's a really good grilled cheese. I think
it is
of your grilled cheeses, that's my second favorite.
It is a transcendently good grilled cheese. What's your first favorite?
The one with American cheese and pickles.
Oh yeah, the pickle grilled cheese. That grilled cheese that's a you grilled cheese. I mean, I love pickles and I love cheese, but dill pickle grilled cheese is just not for me. But anyway, all right, so Portal of Gold. Portal of Gold is the penultimate book in the Blood Knight series. Man, that's such a great word. I love penultimate. But anyway, so this, for those who don't know, which everyone who watches this thing should know by now, this is a book under our Edie Skye pen name, but Jacob pretty much took the lead on this series. So Jacob, I'm going to have you tell everyone a little bit about the basic gist of what Blood Knight 4 is about, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty with all my fun little questions, and then maybe we'll talk about Blood Knight 5, since I just finished reading that. So, have at it.
So, Blood Knight is it's urban fantasy. It features J.B. Clark, who, unbeknownst to him, he is a Blood Knight, and that also his magical powers have been repressed by the vampires who secretly rule the world. And that's certainly not the only bad thing that the vampires who secretly rule the world are doing. So his what goes on is that most people are being affected by mental magic that prevents them from recognizing the occult elements around them in their daily life. And the veil is pulled back for him by a kind of plucky, a very ambitious group that eventually becomes named Broken Fang. Basically a group of monster girls. And they help him kind of get acquainted with what reality actually is, which is a bit more complicated than he thought it was. He thought he was going to college and he was just going to, get his degree, go into the workplace and whatnot. Oh wait, no, there's
vampires to hunt.
there are vampires to hunt. So you've got basically, at the beginning, you have 5 rather ambitious, somewhat competent, somewhat not college students, trying to take on, the vampires who secretly rule the world. And they start very small. And as the books progress, things escalate. They
do
book
escalate,
1.
man. Book 5 is nuts.
Well, book 1 is very much, in the introduction to the world, the introduction to the characters, the team coming together, coalescing, and their first significant victory. The second book is the team continues to grow and begins forming alliances with other factions that also are not very happy with the way things are, the way the vampires, are treating humanity and treating the demi-humans and mages who also live in fear of them. Book 3 is the first time the vampires, the kind of elite of the elite, are like, hey, a lot of vampires have been dying in this city. Maybe we should send a hunter over there to sort this problem out. And that's, to a certain degree, a mirror match between Clark and his harem versus the deviant hunter and his subordinates. And then we come to Portal of Gold.
So this one is primarily books. So each of our books, we usually try to structure them after the problem experienced by a particular girl in the harem. And so it's usually whoever's on the cover. So what is Brooke's particular conflict in this book?
So there's 2 parts to what Brooke, the werewolf of the party, is going through. One is that there is some unexpected tension between her pack and another pack. So her pack is the Hawthorns. There's another pack called the Sandovals. And there's unexpected friction going on there because one of the Sandovals has gone missing. A young teen werewolf named Richard or Richie. He was dating one of Brooke's younger sisters.
Yeah.
And he suddenly just goes missing, and his pack, his family, doesn't seem to care, and is being very kind of cold about it. And this is very unusual activity for werewolves because you mess with one member of the pack, suddenly you're dealing with the entire pack.
Big fights everywhere.
So this doesn't make sense to them. So they, Brooke and her parents, they call in Clark and Broken Fangs, like, hey, can you help us out here? And they take the job and they begin to investigate what's going on. And it turns out that this is just the tip of the iceberg of something very, very large. On the other spectrum of problems, there's a more personal issue going on with Brooke. So you have the various members of the harem. You have Ixia the witch. You have Emma the succubus. You have Sammy the slime girl, and then kind of sort of a part of the harem, kind of not, is Ashley the angel. More happens with her in book 5. But so being that they're really into Clark, and Clark is really into them, and at this point they are Ixia, Brooke, Sammy, and Emma have married him. They're his wives. Ixia already is with child, and the others want to join that club. But as things,
Attempted babies.
pardon?
Said babies everywhere, or at least attempted babies.
Well, but one of the issues is that things are getting very serious, and there's a lot of dangerous things going on, and it's like, well, is this really the right time to be having kids? And so that's one layer of the problem, which is manageable, and particularly when you look at like Emma, who's a succubus, and she basically has a pregnancy switch that she can flip whenever she wants, and so like they do it, and she gets pregnant. And so all she has to do is flip the switch. You have Sammy, who's a slime girl. She's good at manipulating fluids. So
You're not wrong.
So there's she's only she can control when she gets pregnant. So those those two are very much like, we will only get pregnant when we are both they and Clark are ready. Brooke is in a different category. She has a heat cycle, which is pretty much the same as a wolf's heat cycle. She goes into heat once a year, and only for a few days, and that's the only window where she can become pregnant. And a lot can happen in a year, and they're about things are ramping up. The obstacles, the foes they're facing are becoming more dangerous, and it's like there's the question of, are they all going to make it through the next year? So this is causing Brooke a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of the two conflicts that Brooke is dealing with, and Clark helps her with both.
One of the things that I like about the series, and this book in particular, there's definitely sexiness, there's definitely some very hot scenes, but there's also a really intense thread of family. Whether it's found family, as in the case of Clark and the girls, or whether it's blood family, as in the case of the werewolves and of the various families associated with Clark's harem. And that's one thing I in particular really enjoyed reading whenever I was going through your drafts. And so my question what was your thought process when designing all of the families? Like, was the family theme a conscious decision that you made, or did they just vibe that way, the characters?
I mean, it was very much a conscious decision. So it's kind of tied into, as we were building the lore of the setting, before we kind of I dug into like laying out the first novel, was like, okay, we've got all these demi-humans and we've got mages, and so are there families of werewolves? Are there families of witches and wizards and warlocks and whatnot? Are there families of slimes? Are there families of succubi and incubi? The interesting route was yes. And so that to us, that was of the two answers, that was the most interesting one to explore. And so we're like, hey, yeah, why don't we do that? And so from that answer, it's like, okay, well, let's design families for these. And so you end up with the Coven of the Ashen Flower. You end up with Emma's family, her parents who run a marriage, the succubus and the incubus who run the marriage counseling business.
Hey, they're qualified for that on a lot of levels.
They are very qualified for that. And so that became a way to sort of enrich the background of the setting, and to explore interesting corners of it, was through the kind of extended families of each of the primary cast members.
It also really raises the stakes for Clark and company too, because it's like, yeah, obviously vampires have taken over the world, taken over everybody, and he's got to defeat them to save the world. Like, yeah, general hero stuff. but knowing all of the characters who are associated with his monster girls, with his wives, it just punches harder that this is what all of them stand to lose if he fails. And these are all like, you write minor characters really well, and there are like, I love members of their families even though we don't even see them all that often. Like they only appear in small short scenes compared to the rest of the main cast, but they're still very evocative and eventually lovable, even if they start out as somewhat contentious. And I really, really like the structural purpose that serves.
Well, part of it is, trying to, invest a reader in the story and the characters. And if you just tell the reader, hey, the world might end, if the heroes fail.
Like, oh no, the world.
Yeah,
it's not
generally because the real world is not at stake. It's generally something the reader is not going to feel invested in. But if you present characters that exist within that world, that you can build a connection between those characters and the reader, suddenly you have a much better chance of the reader going, oh, well, yeah, yes, now I do care. Because I don't, all right, the world's going to end, or, something really bad is going to happen. It's going to affect these characters that I really, enjoy reading about. So it's, in addition to, exploring the world and enriching the world, it's, meant to help, readers invest in the world and through that investment, enjoy the story more.
Right. In a second, we are going to talk about the people he is defending them from. But first, I want to do a little bit of cover art appreciation. So this is the clean cover art for Blood Knight 4. And our artist for this series is Yanai. And so this is Brooke doing crazy damage to a car. We will talk about the car, or a version of the car, later. But like, Yanai has every single cover he has done for this series has just knocked it out of the park. And I think this one was my favorite until we got the next one. And so, but it's just, it captures Brooke so well, because she's so dynamic and so active, and she's just having a good time, even though there's all this fire going on around her. And it's so visually interesting.
Well, I mean, she very much is, in terms of how the party dynamic, she's very much the tip of the spear. She's the one, charging in, she's tanking the hits because, she's very durable, just, at a base level, but she also regenerates very quickly from injuries. And so, she's very much the one who dives straight in and will rip and tear until, the enemies of Broken Fang are red bloody pulp.
Yep. She's very much my favorite. Like, I love the tomboyish types of characters. And she is absolutely that. Like, she's the werewolf. She gets the zoomies. The zoomies scene from the first book. The laugh that escaped my mouth the first time I read it was not proper and ladylike. It's so great. But now, so I said that this was my favorite cover until now. I got to show you guys the cover for book 5, because once again, Yanai has absolutely knocked it out of the park. And let me get my windows right. There's always window drama when I'm trying to share my screen. Okay, so this is the cover for book 5, which is currently up for pre-order and comes out in May? May. That sounds about right. So we finally get a peek at Ashley. And Ashley has been one of the most anticipated characters for the series because she's such a mystery. And we can talk more about her after we finish talking about book 4, but I had to show it off because, I mean, oh my gosh, you guys, just look at that. It's elegant and sexy at the same time. And the lighting effects are just, oh my gosh, it's chef's kiss.
Yeah, basically he understood the assignment and he executed flawlessly.
Oh yeah.
What can you say? That's this is exactly what we asked him to produce, and he did so. It's a fantastic rendition of this character. and it makes for a beautiful cover on
really
the fifth and final book of the series.
This is my favorite in the series, I think. Like, I absolutely love this cover. It's just, it keeps every single time my eyes go away from it, they are just drawn back to it. And it is such an eye-catching cover. But anyway, yeah, Yanai has knocked it out of the park with this series. And I love it so much. All right, so now, all right, my windows are back in order now. Now, we're going to talk about the bad guys. So, in every single book, there's usually some big leader bad, in this case, Lady Irem. And usually, so in the setting, we have what are called D Hunters, which stands for Deviant Hunters, but is an excellent play on Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the little Easter eggs and hidden pop culture references too, because you had fun with them in this book.
I did.
And but anyway, so in each of the books, once Clark starts getting the attention of the vampires, more and more D Hunters start coming after him. And it was one D Hunter and his brides last time. Now he's got two. So tell us about the D Hunters this time.
Well, there's only the one D Hunter.
Is there?
Yeah, there's only the one. There's only
we're talking about book 4.
Yeah.
There's Hatchet and Price.
Well,
no, one's a D Hunter and one's the thrall. Yeah, okay. That's right. Yeah.
Well, so you have Jezebel Hatchet, who is the deviant hunter, who basically comes to find out what happened to her blood-sploded predecessor, who failed in his mission to find out what was going on in the city of Chester Creek.
I have to pause a moment and say, one of the most fun things about this pen name is we can say words like blood splode, and it makes complete sense in context. It is such a fun pen name to write under.
It's literally, what happened to him.
Yeah. I mean, it is, yeah.
And so she's there, and she also has basically a groom, who is Elliot Price, and he is a dark elf, and is kind of a bit of a play on, I guess, an evil version of Dritz from Forgotten Realms.
Mm-hmm.
In that
there's a direct reference to him in the novel.
Yes, yeah, and there's some talk about, is he carrying around scimitars? No, we don't see any scimitars. And then suddenly he's summoning these, these scimitars made out of vampiric obsidian, which is kind of a magical material that the vampires can manipulate in the setting. And so yeah, there's those two are they're pawns and they're being manipulated by Lady Irem, who is a formidable puppet master, who's operating from the shadows. And she got introduced briefly in book 3, but in book 4 she plays a much more significant role. To say more would be giving too much away, other than she and Broken Fang absolutely come into conflict in this book. She is very easily the most powerful foe they have faced so far.
She's a cool bad guy. I like her.
And they've, like, Dorian from book 3, he was pretty formidable. Especially with
love is the wrong word. I hate Dorian, but he's such a good bad guy. He's such a good love to hate, just absolutely slimy, murderous bad guy. And he's so fun to read, but at the same time, I'm not sad that he got spoiled, shall we say, for those who haven't read the series.
Well, I mean, I think it's, just given the nature of these books, it's pretty much a given that, main bad guy is going to show up in the book, and main bad guy for that book will be dealt with.
Yes.
It's that sort of series, but yeah, as powerful as Dorian was, Lady Irem could basically wipe the floor with him. So
Yeah.
Clark and company, they have their work cut out for them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, book 4 is super, super fun. And book 5, I finished my first edit of book 5, you guys, and oh my gosh, it's hands down the best in the series. Like, it's one of those books that made me so excited. I wanted to go write more myself, and that's one of the highest compliments I can pay a book. It's like I know it's a series under my own pen name, so it feels kind of weird to be complimenting it. But it's also like I was excited to read what Jacob wrote because I've enjoyed the series that much and collaborating with you on it. It's been a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun collaborating on it. And while I've done the bulk of the principal writing, you know, you're certainly your input is certainly on the page as well.
Yeah. And there's also stuff in it. One of the things that I really like about this being a collaborative pen name is it allows us to explore things that I necessarily wouldn't write myself. Like, I enjoy urban fantasy, but I've never really just had an urge to, write an urban fantasy novel. And likewise, there's certain subject matter that you handle a lot better than I do, which leads me into one of my questions. So one of the most appealing things about this series is that, you got monster girls, but you've also got monster girls with guns. And I do not write about guns because, like, there are nerds and then there are gun nuts. And nerds can be insane about their specific numbers, but gun nuts, oh my gosh. And I say this with love, but I'm amazed at the intensity of the gun crowd. And it's been really as we get into firearms ourselves. But it's like I'm never gonna write guns because I know that the moment I make a single error, I'm gonna hear about it for the rest of my career.
There was this one review that made fun of it was sort of like this backhanded comment about saying that the funniest joke in the book was describing this one shotgun as a reliable weapon.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, okay. I mean,
the only thing I know about guns is the one little revolver that I like to shoot and rent, and shoot when we're at the range. And literally the only thing I remember about it is that it's a Smith & Wesson and shoots 22s. Like, I do not remember the numbers. And so whenever I edit the parts where the girls are going to bloats and bullets, I'm like, yeah, those are some good numbers. I don't know what they mean, but I hope Jacob got them right. So it leads into my question of, how did you pick what guns each of the girls have? Like, I'm assuming you're an engineer. You like the numbers and the math. I assume there are reasons.
Well, I mean, part of it ties into the lore of how bullets are enchanted, in that if you have bullets in contact with each other, it makes it more difficult to pack more potent spells in them. So that's one of the reasons why revolvers are a fairly common weapon of choice for mages and mage adjacent characters, because you get fewer shots, but those shots are going to hit very hard, particularly if you have, like, say, like a 44 Magnum, and it's loaded with an immolation spell.
I love the element. I love that you have Ixia enchanting the bullets and having the witches enchanting and enchanting all the firearm related stuff. I think that's a cool element of the series.
But part of it's that some of the guns are, guns that I would like to get.
Oh, so this is just a really complicated way of giving me your gun shopping list.
Well, no. That's like the quote unquote weenie gun that Sammy uses. That's the one I want to get. I don't. And the reason why that she's using a gun and ammunition that doesn't produce quite as much recoil.
Her little slime can't take it.
Well, it's not that it's it just, the recoil doesn't hurt her, but it does throw off her aim fairly easily. So it's an accuracy problem rather than the gun is actually like hurting her with how much it kicks. Clark and Brooke being a blood knight who's absorbed a lot of powers from other mages and demi-humans, or Brooke as a werewolf. Recoil is a much less of a concern. And so they get larger guns, and at a certain point, Clark just gets a ridiculous handgun. I think it's a Smith & Wesson Model 500.
I don't know what any of those numbers mean.
It's a very, very powerful handgun. And so Emma, who for most of the series is hanging back, so she has a rifle. She has an AR-15, but she gets a bit of a. In fact, most of the characters get power-ups in this book, and Emma also gets a significant power-up, and to the point where she is able to more readily participate in combat, and so she gets herself a shotgun that I think it's the I'm trying to remember the Benelli M4, I think. So I think the line is let's see here, it's Armed Forces tested, John Wick approved. is the line that
I love all the scenes with Emma and her shotgun, because it is just she radiates how much she loves that thing, and I love the whole idea of the succubus with the shotgun. Like, that could be just a B-grade action movie right there. I love it. Oh, it's Richie. Hey, Richie. By the way, those of you watching, if you have any questions about anything, feel free to put them in the chat, and yeah, because we can talk forever. But I want to talk about monsters. Can we talk about monsters?
Yes, we can talk about monsters. We've got some very interesting monsters in this one.
Oh, yeah. So in this one, have we actually specified what the Portal of Gold is, since it is like...
No, we have not.
We should probably do that at some point. So, Jacob, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Portal of Gold so that we can talk about the monsters they fight while they're trying to get to it?
Okay, so the Portal of Gold is... essentially, it is the characters aren't really sure what it is, but it is characterized as a kind of a super weapon that was that Ashley, the angel, hid away 20 years ago, and has forgotten how to get back to it. Amnesia. Because her halo is damaged, and her halo kind of connects her to other memories, and so she sort of remembers her mission in short. So she's been kind of rediscovering, but she knows that finding the Portal of Gold is critical to her mission, and her mission is to free humanity from the vampires who secretly rule the world. So she didn't just like leave it in a safe somewhere. She and her allies from 20 years ago set up a very elaborate locking mechanism that involves pocket dimensions.
Yeah.
And also transplanar portals. And there are 3 seals that have to be unlocked in order for them to in order for the portal to the Portal of Gold to be opened.
It's a portalception.
It's she really wanted to keep this thing safe, and in that regard, she did succeed.
Well, I mean, she's got alternate dimensions involved. I mean, sometimes I'll put something away on this plane and I can't find it. So
unfortunately, over the past 20 years, other parties have realized that it exists, and both Heinrich and Alcott the two big bad vampires from books 1 and 2. They were after it. Dorian Alland from book 3, he discovered basically the trail, and he was after it. And Lady Irem is after it in a big way, and she does not care who she has to kill or screw over to get to it.
Yeah.
So it is. It's a very powerful magical artifact. What it does gets revealed, but it is
because it's a spoiler.
but it is essential that the good guys get control. First of all, keep it out of the enemy hands, and also gain control of it so that they can then use it to overthrow the big bad, who is Belphegor, who gets her first scene in book 4.
Yep. Oh my gosh, her scene at the end of book 4 is just, it's so wonderful. And there is a single sentence that sums her up really well. And I just want to say, when you get to book 4 and you hit the sentence about the Girl Scout cookies, you're gonna know. It's just, you learn a lot about that character in a handful of words.
Oh, those poor Girl Scouts.
But Richie's in the comments and says, it's my favorite duo. We love you too, Richie. And says, I have a question. Why are you guys just so amazing? We don't know. It's honestly kind of like nebulous to us as well. We don't even understand why people enjoy us. Well, I mean, we're cool. Like, I think we're cool, but I don't know why everyone else thinks we're cool. I guess everyone just has good taste, and I just play along with it. Gamora12 is in the chat and says, hi, everyone. So, hey, Gamora12. And let's see here. We're about at our little, like, let's see. My brain just turned off. Oh, we haven't talked about the monsters yet.
No, you wanted to talk about the monsters.
I do want to talk about the monsters.
But then we got sidetracked to the portal of gold.
That is life. That is our life. Getting sidetracked is our life. But I have a note on my very important podcast notes to remind everybody to, if you are enjoying this podcast, please subscribe wherever you are watching. And also, if you would like to support the podcast, we have a Buy Me a Coffee and a Ko-Fi that you can contribute to, where I have links in the show notes and also in the comments. And you can also just buy our books, because that's awesome too. Richie says, also, Edie, where are the sunglasses? They're hidden in my hair again. I got different ones. I got these nice octagonal ones. Yeah, octagons this time around. So yes. Yeah, my hair just eats them. Like, there's a certain angle where it just gets devoured. But yes, the sunglasses are always on my head. My head feels empty without them. But anyway,
your head feels empty.
It does. It feels like there's missing weight on it or something. If I don't have my sunglasses on, well, they're not supposed to be going down. Okay, so monsters. You got some cool ones in here, and so we've got the Seraphic Adjutant, which is just, that's a badass name. Like, I mean, I know it's like basically a big old celestial hawk, but it's a really, really cool, fierce one. Like, I wouldn't want to fight it myself. Like, I'm glad that Clark and the girls did that for us. But it is such a neat monster. And then we have we have the spooters.
Yes, there are the spooters.
And then we, of course, I wonder, should we mention the third one? Because it's kind of a fun little surprise. Shall we leave that one for flavor?
I think we should probably leave off, not talk about that particular monster, because that is a spoiler. And for longtime Edie Skye fans, it is a bit of an Easter egg. It's meant to be a little delightful surprise to longtime readers. And it kind of hints at some interconnections.
Yes. All right, so let's talk about the Seraphic Adjutant first. So, how did you decide on this particular monster? First off, describe it.
So it is a huge, kind of a hawk-like monster. Like, I forget exactly how tall I describe it, but I think it's at least twice as tall as a person. Maybe taller than that. and it has 6 wings, and that's kind of where the seraphic portion comes from. It is supposed to be kind of like all white feathers and sort of like a golden beak and like golden talons, but it's almost entirely black when the party encounters it, and it's Ashley is certain that it will not attack them.
Nah.
And she's wrong. Spoiler, she's wrong, and they have to fight it. In fact, each of the 3 seals or locks that kind of protect the portal of gold has essentially a boss monster protecting it. And the seraphic adjutant is the first one that they come across, and they are fighting it basically on this platform that's over nothingness. There's just an infinite drop of nothingness beneath them. So most of these characters in Broken Pain, they can't fly. So if they get dropped,
yeah,
which the adjutant tries to grab hold and drop them off the edge and get rid of some of them that way. That's goodbye. But yeah, it's essentially the idea behind the creature is that it is a creature that Ashley summoned, but in the intervening time, it became corrupted, and she's unable to command it, and so they have no choice but to face it in battle and defeat it in order to get to the seal in that particular pocket dimension.
All right, let's talk about the spooters. So, all right. I have to describe where the spooter name came from, the unofficial name. But first off, describe what these monsters are so everyone has some context.
Okay, so there's a realm that gets mentioned very briefly in book 2, where Ashley she starts babbling, and she's facing down the Terrorgeist, which is kind of the main monster of book 2, she for a brief period she gets some of her memories back, and she mentions this Never Realm, and just I've faced all these things, and some of it's just like really difficult names to pronounce that if I don't have these names in front of me, how they're spelled out, I'm gonna.
I have a stupid question.
Yes.
When you were naming these things, did you literally just like roll your face across the keyboard? Because that's what I would have done. And that's what it looks like.
No,
there were these really Lovecrafty and crazy names, and they just look like a keyboard blat.
No, there was method to my madness in coming up with the names. And I tried to also make sure that for the audiobook, they were actually pronounceable.
Yes. Yes, and Daryl. We love you guys.
They're not the easiest things to pronounce, but they are pronounceable.
I have to I like to be nice to our audiobook narrators, and so sometimes I've had to curb a lot of my fantasy naming instincts and ask myself, how would Jess and Daryl pronounce this? Would they have to concentrate on pronouncing this? Yeah. And it affects how I name things these days.
All right, so the Never Realm, I think it's Kitzel Zerknacht is the name. I think.
I'll take your word for it.
All right, yeah, it's whatever I came up with. It's sort of this realm of contradictions, and it makes you go insane. Just being exposed to this place makes you go insane. The sky is black, but it blinds you. The silence there is like deafening in your ears. Just everything is wrong.
Yeah, that's wild.
And if you were to truly understand the place, you would go mad. So it's sort of like, it plays into, cosmic horror to a certain degree. So of course the Spooters, which have a more, complicated name.
Horrible name.
They're basically tentacle spiders.
Yeah.
They're these very ugly eyeless tentacle spiders, with like mouths on their bellies. So at a certain point, the ladies, they're talking about this, and Emma's like, well, wouldn't they be cephalopods then? It doesn't sound like these are spiders. And Sammy's just going on about the Spooters and how horrible the Spooters are, and they are as insidious as they are ugly, and everyone's convinced that the Spooters do not exist, that this is something that Ixia just put in her brain, and Ixia is trolling Sammy is what they think is going on. And then, of course, Ashley says, oh, actually, yes, Spooters exist.
Yep. But the name is derived from, okay, guys, so we were watching Babylon 5 several months ago, and there came a point where every single time the shadows would come up on the screen, it's not really a spider-like design, but it's got a vaguely spidery look.
Bit of spider, bit of insect, in there.
You have these really, really dark, dramatic things happening, and the shadows would be on screen, and I would immediately shatter the tension by going, "It's a Spooter." I was not taking this show seriously. I mean, I love
you called the shadows from Babylon 5 Spooters.
Spooters. But yeah, so
at that point, I'm like, I'm taking that name and I'm using it.
Yep. There is a lot of my dumbassery at home that ends up in Blood Night solely because it amuses Jacob. So I mean, it's book 5's got my cocktails in it. Like, so I've been making book themed cocktails. And like I opened book 5 and Jacob had asked me for my recipes a while back, and I was like, okay, whatever. You can make them while I'm not at home, whatever. And then I go and I read the book, and it's like there's the recipe for the Lorecraft family jewels. There's the recipe for Ashley's kiss in the book, and it's just like, so yeah. And so now I'm making cards to give out at cons because I mean, obviously I can't miss that opportunity. So, but yeah. All right. Well, we are getting close to 9 o'clock, so I think it's time to wrap up. But before we do, I do want to say the next book in the series, Blood Night, Throne of Shadows, is up for pre-order, and it's so kick-ass, you guys. And
it's a very, I think it's a very strong closer for the series.
Yeah, so I just finished my edit. I sent the document back to you so you can finish your edit this week, but it's really like it's so clean, you guys. It's so good. Like all you're gonna have to do is like accept all changes. Like it's so good. But in terms
once I'm done with my edits, then pretty soon it'll be posting on Patreon.
Yep. So speaking of Patreon, so in terms of the way our writing projects are going, Monster Girl Tamer #2. It should finish posting next Wednesday, if I recall correctly. I've got to look specifically at my little schedule. But Monster Girl Tamer will #2 will be up then, and then Blood Night 5 will immediately follow that. I am going to begin my final like deep edit on Monster Girl Tamer 2 next week and knock that out of the way. And then after I get that done, I'm moving into the next Titan Mage series. So the first 4 chapters of it are already somewhat written. I've just got to go over them and get the Titan Mage vibe back. But that's the next writing project. And I think you've got a short story you're working on. Yeah. And then it's on to the Saganami trilogy for you. Yep. So a lot of writing stuff happening right now. We're finishing starting some stuff. It's a weird, busy-ish part of the year. But let's see, was there anything else we wanted to talk about? I think it's about time to just do our little like closing thing. So hey Jacob, what video games you playing?
Well, been taking a little bit of a break from Helldivers to play Monster Hunter Wilds.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this. Like, I bought a PS5 for this game, you guys, before I even knew it existed. Like, I played World, got addicted to it, and I knew there was going to be a follow-up to World, so I was like, may as well get a PS5. And so, yeah, that's it. We should honestly do a whole episode about Wilds, because I have some emotions about this game. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. It's really good, but the multiplayer is really clunky.
Like, when it was just the two of us playing multiplayer together, it wasn't that big a deal because you could get me set up and I could yell across the house that I was having problems and whatnot. But now that we actually have a little gaming group, getting everyone coordinated, like, I cannot fathom why the multiplayer is so convoluted.
It's so hard to get a group together.
Yeah.
And then you know, you go over to like a game like Helldivers, and it's like you go online, you see, you know, your buddy is online, and the next thing you know, you're on your buddy's ship.
Yep. Do you have a favorite monster?
I think so far right now, even though I've only fought it twice, is Jin Dahad.
Which one is that?
The kind of the ice leviathan.
Okay, yeah.
I'm
still learning the newer ones' names. Like, I skipped the story just to get to the monsters. Like, I just fast forwarded.
Yeah, I started skipping stuff too.
Well, the thing about it is, I don't play Monster Hunter for the story. I play to hunt monsters, and it's like I'm sure that there is an okay attempt at a story in there. But I don't care. I kind of wish that there would be a Monster Hunter game released without the story element, honestly. Because especially since we were trying to play it with our buddies, like, all of us were having to get through the story at different times and trying to coordinate that. And it was just, it's a multiplayer friendly game if all of you play independently and then join once everyone has beaten the main story. And so it's like, I am having absolute fun. Rompopolo is my favorite. Like, I love them all, but it's just like this plague doctor balloon poison farting thing, and it's just like, it's so absurd.
It's a really good design for a monster. It's not a particularly, I mean, he has a bit of a punching bag.
He's beautiful.
But it is a very cool monster. Very cool monster.
But
yeah, so what I really wish they allowed us to do is, like, get a group of 4 people together and just play through the story together.
Yeah.
And you can't do that.
Yeah.
And so it's just really, you know, we've been trying to introduce some of our friends to the series. That has had mixed results, to say the least. It's been everywhere from one of them who is in high rank with us to one of them who rage quit. And yeah,
I think we have one who is just hanging on politely.
But yeah.
To be fair, Monster Hunter is a very niche kind of game. Like, it doesn't have conventional gameplay, especially for Western game players. It's a very, very unconventional structure. And it's my understanding that Monster Hunter, like, it's a 20-plus-year-old series, but didn't really gain any traction in the US until Monster Hunter World, which took off. And even then, like, you had to, even when you introduced me to World, you basically had to handhold me through the first several monsters, because I didn't understand that I was supposed to customize my armor specifically to fight certain monsters. Because in most video games, you're just like, okay, you level up this thing and then you go through the story again. It's just, it's a very, very non-intuitive way of playing. But once you figure out how to play it, it's super fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's when you get the loop, it's a really good loop, because it's like, you know, you're fighting monsters that are just like a tier above what your equipment is. You're then using, you know, parts from those monsters to make better gear, to fight more powerful monsters, and you kind of progress like that. And all the monsters have a lot of things that they can do to mess with the hunters. But in response,
with me right now, like, that was my most recent one, and it kicked my butt. The only reason I did not die was because you were there carrying me. So thank you, husband.
But if a particular monster is giving you trouble, there's a lot of things that you can do to optimize your equipment loadout to face that particular monster. So say like a monster like a Jerrican, which is this fire ape, is giving you trouble. You can equip fire resistant armor. You can set your loadout up to be immune to blast damage, which is something that he can inflict you with. You can craft a weapon that I think he's weak to ice weapons, and so you can craft an ice weapon that does additional damage, and you can do things like lay traps for him. You can utilize status ailments against him, put him to sleep, wake him up with barrel bombs exploding in his face, all sorts of stuff like that to optimize your chances. But if you're just sort of like going in, mashing,
yeah,
you're not going to have a good time.
I was looking up a thing, and did it not save? I was going to show off my my Monster Hunter character because I had the I thought I had saved the screenshot, but I may not have. Let me see here. No, maybe I didn't. Oh well. Because so the fun thing about Monster Hunter when Jacob and I play, the Monster Punk Horizon Pix and Jazz were based loosely on our Monster Hunter World characters, and so in Wilds and in Rise, we basically build our characters to be Pix and Jazz. And Jacob has Nova as his Palico, and I built Dazzle as my Palico. But right now, Dazzle is wearing an armor set. From the head is from the Rompopolo set, the body is from one of the octopi monsters, and he just looks like a little eldritch horror. Like it's a brain octopus with a brain in a jar.
Yeah, it's an octopus with a brain in a jar with like little drills as your weapon.
It's the most hilarious looking thing, and I love it. Like, I didn't intentionally make him look like a Lovecraftian monster, but I kind of love it, and I don't want to change it. No, but anyway, Gamora12 asked, are you guys getting anything on the Steam sale? I didn't even know there was a Steam sale happening. That is how out of the loop I am. We have both been like head deep in notebooks and editing and whatnot for the past months. So, what you reading, Jacob?
So I just finished the fifth book in the Roger Zelazny's Amber Chronicles, which is the first of the two arcs, and I did enjoy it. There were a few places where the author and me is like, come on, you were making this up as you went along in a few places. There's like one plot thread that shows up in book 2, and it's just kind of dangled along, and you get to book 5, and I sort of had a shrug. It's like, seriously, that's where that plot thread went? All right. But I mean,
need to give you guys some additional context about the Chronicles of Amber. Like, Jacob, the two of us read in bed before we go to sleep every night, and ever since Jacob started the Chronicles of Amber, he's been turning over to me, and he's like, you got to read this, Heather. You've got to read it. He's not telling me why I need to read it, but this is just like, Jacob is really excited, at least about the first few books of this series, and so it's on my list as I go through all the crazy things I have to catch up on. But so it's apparently a super good book, a super good series.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first two books. The third one was a little bit of a slog, but the fourth book picked things up again, and the fifth book I felt was a satisfying ending. There were just I approach anything that I read partially as a as a reader, but also as a craftsman studying someone else's craft. And sometimes
John's in the comments saying, "You've got to love a book that makes you go seriously." Hey, John, by the way.
Yeah, the opening to the first Amber Chronicles novel, I think it's Nine Princes of Amber is the title. I'm reading this opening and I have no idea who this character is. I have no idea what's going on and how he ended up in this situation, but I was immediately riveted. And I wanted to know. And I mean, what can you say? That's the sign of a master at work.
Oh yeah.
If he can get you invested in a character that effectively, it's an interesting mystery that slowly gets unraveled, and it's a fantasy setting, but it's done in a way that I haven't seen done before. So it's, yes, there's plenty of fantasy elements in it, but the way that it structures the fantasy stuff is very different from anything else I've ever read.
Definitely moving that up the list. There's a Zelazny on my list. I've been meaning to read Lord of Light, primarily because a lot of the cons that we go to, we end up running into Ben Yallow. And for those who don't know who Ben Yallow is, he has been around since the literal beginning of modern sci-fi. And so he saw the con scene grow. He saw the sci-fi industry develop, and he knows everything you could possibly know about sci-fi. And naturally he also likes to just talk sci-fi books, talk classic sci-fi. And I'll tell him, hey, I like this kind of sci-fi, recommend a thing. And every single classic thing he brings to me is just spot on with what I enjoy. And so one time I asked him, in your seasoned opinion, what is the best sci-fi and fantasy book, the absolute best? And he said Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. So now that is up at the top of my list, toward the top of my list. But I have been reading, so I just started Creation Mage by Dante King, and I'm not that far into it, but it's already won me over because the main character is a magic user, and his "you're a wizard, Harry" moment, he literally just explodes a guy like he does magic, and then the guy's not there anymore. And it's just the sheer bombast of it is like, hell yeah, this is a book for me. I also I'm now that I am getting into writing, Titan Mage Havoc is going to be more of a standard action adventure fantasy. I basically describe it as Clive Cussler with giant robots, so I've started reading more Clive Cussler. So I'm working on Pacific Vortex right now, and it's super short compared to other Cussler books that I've read, but it's super fun. And what else am I reading now? I think I'm also reading, A Ruin of Roses by K.F. Breen, I believe. And it's a sexy Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I know does not narrow it down as romantasy goes. But it's really dark and really snarky, and I like that about it. What else?
How many books are you reading at once?
I read according to I see what I feel out my vibe when I lay down to sleep, and it's like, if I want a harem book, I got Creation Mage. If I want to actually go to sleep, I've got some boring book that I didn't like, and so I've got a lot of stuff going at the same time. Let's see. We've talked about what we've played. We've talked about what we've read. Yeah, I think that covers most of my questions. Yeah. So thank you for hanging out with us tonight, everybody. You have anything else you want to add, Jacob?
For the Wi-Fi?
Huh? Okay, you guys. We need context. I gotta pull up the picture. So when I finished reading Blood Knight 5, I got so excited about a particular scene that I made a shirt about it. And I gotta find it in my downloads. So I will present you this with no context. But when you encounter the scene in hold it, what is happening here? Okay, there it is. My share screen window is doing something funny. when you encounter the scene in Blood Knight 5, you will know. And here is the shirt. Just soak that in. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit. Yes. Okay. So yes, we have our unicorn. We have our PS5 controller. We have lots of explosions and for the Wi-Fi. So it's hands down. Oh my gosh, this particular character is my favorite character in the entire book, and she's not even a main character. Like, oh my gosh. And Froeby's in the chat. He says 5 books at a time for him. Wow. That's amazing, Froeby. All right, minimize. Okay. So, but yes, that also is already on our shop, even though there is absolutely no context for it. And that actually reminds me, I should probably share a link to our shop. So I will do that real quick in the comments, because I just added a whole bunch of stuff up there. And lots of t-shirts. We are now carrying pillow shams of very important characters. Or I've only got one up right now, so we can feature those next time when I have more.
So should we provide some context for the shirt?
No, I think it's funnier if you go in like without it.
Okay.
Like, I mean, you're welcome to if you want to. I mean, technically. Oh, you look so eager to share.
No. I can go either way. I'm fine.
You have met this character before, briefly in, was it not Titan?
But the character is mentioned in book 3.
Okay, yeah. So book 3 of Blood Knight. So sharp-eyed readers will recognize her, but Lady Thorn is a treasure. I cannot wait to talk about her in future podcasts, because oh my gosh, the laugh that came out of my face when I reached that part of the scene. Because the thing is, this particular line happens in one of the really, really intense climactic scenes, and it's like you're gripping the page and your face is in the book, and then suddenly this happens, and it's like, what the hell? In the best way. And so, yeah. Oh, John is in the comments and says, I can't listen to your Edie Skye books at work anymore. I can't wear earbuds. Oh, that's a tragedy. Ours are definitely, you need earbuds for them books.
You can listen to mine.
I've heard, oh yeah, the Jacob Holo ones. Yeah. Speaking of which, the Dyson file came out in audio.
Finally, I got, it's some of these audiobooks are a couple years late, but finally the Gordian file, the Dyson file, the Janus file, and the Velto file, they all have audiobooks now.
Once all the audiobooks come out, we're going to have to do another podcast just about the series and about the audiobooks, because you listen to them pretty frequently when they come out. And so you have your own books pre-ordered. So you can listen to them as you walk in the mornings. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us for this hour. This has been a whole lot of fun. Once again, if you want to try to win a signed copy of Blood Knight Portal of Gold, go to my little link in the comments and in the show notes. I will pick a random winner after the show and get in touch with you and whatnot. Book 4 is already out. Book 4 just came out in audio, and Jess and Daryl did a magnificent job. It is entirely worth your Audible credit just to hear Jess say spoilers. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to our podcast about book 5. It's going to be kind of a bittersweet ending, because this has been a really fun series, and this book 5 will be the last Blood Knight, for now, at least. Who knows what the future holds. But yeah, this has been a really, really fun series, and it's been really, really fun hanging out with you guys. So see you later.